Mayor Pro Tem Villegas-Walker.
Here.
Mayor Solomon.
Here.
Councilmember Sanders.
Here.
Councilmember Ed.
Present.
We'll have a report from the city attorney for a closed session.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, both the redevelopment agency and the city council adjourned to closed session at approximately 12:05 p.m. Motion by Silva, second by Villegas-Walker, approved on a 4-0 vote with member Edney absent during the whole proceedings. The board did hear, I'll report separately with regard to redevelopment agency at that time. The council did resume closed session at 12:40 and discussed labor negotiations with all bargaining units with its designated representatives. There is no action to report. The city manager and city attorney then left the room, and the council discussed the evaluation process for city manager, city attorney, and secretary to city council. And then the council resumed and considered the pending litigation of McCabe et al. Versus City and Central Union High School versus City. And on that matter, Council Member Villegas-Walker did abstain and left the room, as she has previously, as her husband is a board member of Central Union High School District and a named plaintiff. Open session this evening. And that concludes my report. And I will need to do a report on redevelopment at that time.
Okay. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mrs. Walker and invocation. I will do.
Please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Please bow your heads. Father, thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon us, waking us up this morning and starting us on our way. Lord, continue to watch over those young men and young women that are in the armed services. And Lord, continue to bless this great country. I ask these things in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
Public session. If there is an item on the agenda on which you wish to be heard, please complete a speaker slip and give to the city clerk prior to the meeting. When the item is announced by the mayor, come forward to the microphone, address yourself to the council, stating your name and address for the record. Unless the mayor extends the time, there is a 3-minute time limit for each public presentation. If you wish to address the council concerning any other matter within the council's jurisdiction, you may do so during the public comment portion of the agenda. We have presentations and announcements by the mayor. One of the first things we want to do is the hospital has an annual report that is out, and they have a couple of people here to kind of talk about it. So at this time, come on down. This is really a nice-looking report.
Get to be introduced to one of our most recent hires at the hospital. Ms. Pipkin, if you could give us just a little intro, please.
Kathleen Pipkin, 1228 Buffalo. Yes, I'm fortunate enough to have a position with the hospital in marketing, public relations, and special projects. And we just completed our annual report, and Ms. Walker saw it last night at the board meeting and wanted me to drop it by. We didn't get it in time to be on your agenda, so it'll be on your next month's agenda. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I think that we stepped it up a notch, and very proud to say we have a lot of good things happening here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does Mr. Williams want to say something?
I think that's it.
He's here for the other item. Okay.
At this time, I would like to have Mrs. Councilwoman Sanders talk about her trip to the National League of Cities and what happened to her while she was there.
Mr. Solomon and my other colleague, Mayor Solomon rather, and my colleagues, I'm happy to report that, and was very pleased to be able to be your representative at the National League of Cities. But during my tenure there, I was the recipient, so I'm humbled and yet honored for the opportunity to serve a community. And I was the recipient of the Women in Leadership Award. There are 49 states represented at the national level, so the competition was fierce. There was a lot of women with a lot of talent in their leadership qualities, but yours truly, based upon an application that was submitted by the mayor of El Centro, yours truly happened to have been the recipient. So you're listening to the 2009 WIMAGE Leadership Award recipient. Thank you. Thank you. The recipient, the award is based upon several leadership factors. One, what you do in your region, what you do in your city, and then what you've done in your state. So, again, I am quite humbled by the opportunity to have been the recipient. So I thank all of you for the support that you have given me over the number of years, allowing me to travel to various places that the National League is holding their conferences, so that I could demonstrate the type of leadership that warranted such an honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we really are pleased that someone from the Imperial Valley has finally taken something from the
Yes,
National League of Cities. So congratulations again.
thank you.
We have a monthly report by Tom Curtis, President of the Downtown El Centro Business Improvement District.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. It's going to be a short report, very brief tonight. We have our ongoing collections that we need to make for the assessment for our downtown, El Centro Downtown Incorporated organization. They're coming in a lot better. I think when we took over the part of the collection for the past year, or the past years, they've been adhered to. Those funds are coming in, it's been adhered to a whole lot better, so that's looking very good for us. We have upcoming, our bid board elections will take place in about 2 to 3 weeks. Probably the next time that I come before you, we'll have the new members of the board that will be seated and take place on the bid board. We continue to try to outreach to the businesses downtown on Main Street, encourage the business owners to attend bid meetings, and obviously you folks are all invited to come down as well. Anyone who, it's an open meeting, anyone who wants to come in, we meet every 2 weeks on a Tuesday morning at 7:30 at Desert Security. So we would enjoy having your input, have you come down and meet with us. We work, as you know, with RDA very closely, and the RDA staff regularly attends our bid board meetings, and regularly, I mean every time we have a meeting, and they report on Project SHAPE and Project PEACE. And the Southern California Association of Governments asked the RDA to participate with a Project SHAPE exhibit at their Ontario meeting. The RDA prepared a board presentation and a DVD representing Project SHAPE, Project PEACE, and the Wellness Outside Walkers WOW program. Project SHAPE is a SCAG, Southern California Associated Governments Compass Blueprint project for downtown El Centro. And we appreciate being involved in that. We appreciate the effort I know that this council has put forth in the Southern California Association of Governments, and being looked at for the Project SHAPE. Our Christmas banners are in. We hope to be able to get them up within the next 2 weeks and get the summer banners down. And last but by sure is not very least is we want to extend our congratulations to our 2 newly re-elected officials on the council.
Thank you,
Mrs.
Mr.
Walker,
Mayor.
Mr. Solomon. It's a pleasure working with you. We look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.
That ends the report. Are there any questions that maybe I could answer?
The banners,
Uh-huh.
will we be assisting in putting those up, or?
We certainly hope so. Yeah, our agreement with the city is that just so long as they can go down and put them up, they don't have to raise or lower the brackets. So we're making sure that we have all the brackets the right height, so all you have to do is go on and slip them on and take the old ones off. And we have new banners that came in at the same time, not only Christmas banners, but spring banners, so that when Christmas is over, we'll put up the spring banners. Our intent and our hope is that we will have 4 different sets of banners for 4 different seasons of the year, or our seasons, which would be Christmas and spring, summer, and then fall.
So if we could get the banners up after Thanksgiving, but before the parade would be ideal.
That's our intent. That's what we want to do. So, and I have yet to talk to...
Mr. Hagan right behind you?
Yes, ma'am. But I just found out today that the banners are in, so we haven't had much of a time to put that package together, but we will. And the city, we appreciate the city being very cooperative in getting us to get those banners up there. So especially before the parade, it'll really highlight things. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And unless I see you before, we'll see you in a month. Thank you.
Okay. We're moving on to consent agenda. Consent items are approved by one motion. Council members or members of the public may pull consent items to be considered separately at a time designated by the mayor.
I'd like to pull item 7, please.
Motions to approve items 2 through 6.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Edney, second by Mrs. Walker. Please vote.
Motion carries 4-0.
Ms. Walker?
If I could ask the council to please take a look at page number 2. And the reason I pulled this is last night at the Board of Trustees meeting at El Centro Regional Medical Center, there was a request by the trustees that we change the language on paragraph number 1, paragraph number 2. And Mr. Hernandez, do you have the language available that was
Yeah, I believe the city
substituted?
clerk has we prepared some additional revisions,
Okay.
just in case you wanted to consider them.
I'm not suggesting one way or the other if we want to change it, but I would have you look at the revised language for just those 2. There was a sense by one of the members of the Board of Trustees that the use of the word demand was a little strident, maybe a little too curt and condescending. I just don't know. So what we changed that to, as you'll see, is that President Weber grant a waiver, and that the civil rights of Imperial Valley students. So it's really up to the pleasure of the council if you'd like to go with the revised version or stick with the original version that was in your packets.
And
I'm on page 2 of the,
of the resolution.
right, and paragraph number 1 and paragraph number 2 are where the changes have been made.
And it is the particular word demand that seemed a little bit strong.
Correct.
Yes.
That's the only change, Mr. Hernandez?
Yeah, those
And,
were the only changes to those particular, the wording for numbers 1 and 2
oh,
on
Mr.
page
Edney,
2.
did you have a preference one way or the other?
I would take the second one and revise. I would say that since this was brought off the thing, when I originally looked at this, it seemed very self-serving, but I think what allows me to go forward with approving it is that the precedent has already been set by the 3 other institutions that have provided an off-campus or a satellite campus, if you will, that you quote here, that we have on here, which is the California State University System, San Bernardino and Bakersfield, which have already offered
Carve-out.
an exemption and a
Yes.
carve-out for their satellite campuses. So I do see this as something that we're not trying to get them to change the whole way they do business. We're just saying, hey, we have a unique situation here, just as the Palm Desert campus does, just as the Antelope Valley campus does. And I think it's very important to point out that the significance of this is the fact that we have no other alternative.
That's exactly right. So is that a motion, Mr. Edney?
Yes.
Alternative to what?
Well,
We
we
have
have
no other
no
alternative.
other public institution alternative to get a four-year college degree. Even in San Diego and in most of the other areas where Cal State, they're all our alternatives. I'm not saying they're great alternatives. I'm saying there are other public institutions or part of the UC or even private universities. What we have here is to the extent of the groundbreaking of the University of Phoenix,
yeah.
which is a much more limited, much more costly, very beneficial. We're happy to have them. But it's not the same thing as having public universities in the areas of San Diego County, Los Angeles County, Orange County, where they at least have alternatives to go to.
Mr. Edney's made a motion. I'll second the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Edney, a second by Mrs. Walker. I want to make sure that Mrs. Sanders.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I'm reading this and trying to wrap my mind around exactly the intent of moving this forward with that particular language change. As I understand from Ms. Walker, the language change was predominantly to soften the tone. Correct?
Correct.
To soften the tone. It did not do anything as it relates to actually demonstrating that we feel that there is an absolute need for a four-year institution to be here, a brick and mortar four-year institution.
Well, that's covered in the first
Yes.
page, right?
So, yes, so you're only asking for that one slight limitation in the word change.
Right.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
The motion carries 4-0.
Public hearing. We have a public hearing to receive comments from the public on a proposed reimbursement agreement between the City of El Centro and In-N-Out Burgers, a California corporation, for the installation of a rise medium island running north-south along State Route 86 and Wake Avenue, and an increase of radius at the northwest corner of SR 86 and Wake Avenue as part of the In-N-Out Burgers project location at the west corner of the intersection of State Route 86 and Wake Avenue. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. What I'll do is I'll first cover the raised median and that reimbursement agreement, and then the curve radius at the corner. Caltrans is requiring In-N-Out to construct a raised median on 4th Street, Highway 86, between Wake and I-8 to eliminate the potential left turn traffic hazards. In-N-Out has agreed to do this, fully fund the construction of the median, and then based on future development on the east side of the highway there, reimbursement may take place under a reimbursement agreement. The reimbursement would be from the property on the east side between Wake and I-8, basically the auto dealership. The cost of the total median is around $115,000, so they're looking for $57,500 basically back. This shows the raised median here. This is Highway 86. North is to the right. This is Wake Avenue. This is your In-N-Out here. IHOP is located up here. It also shows the striping changes here and the crosswalk change due to the change in radius. This is an aerial view. Here you've got In-N-Out here again and the auto dealership. So this property here, if any building permits come in during the next 10-year period, they would be expected to pay for half the raised median as a reimbursement to In-N-Out. Corner radius. In-N-Out has been requested to construct the 50-foot corner radius there at the northwest corner of 86 and Wake. The project had been previously identified by the city. However, we did not have the right-of-way to proceed with the project. Right-of-way was acquired when In-N-Out came in and constructed, and the city will reimburse In-N-Out 100% of the costs for the design and construction of the curb radius, estimated to be about $145,000, and we'd use LTA funds. This red area here shows basically where the existing curb is, and as you notice, there's a lot of trucks that have made this corner here, and here we've got the old track that the trucks take, and with a new radius, 50-foot radius, this is the direction that the trucks would take in the future. Also, currently we have K-rail here blocking this entrance. This K-rail would be removed once the raised median is constructed. So in summary, we've got cost sharing for the raised median and 100% reimbursement for the raised curb, the radius curb return. Any questions? Oh, and I've got a schedule here.
Here we go.
There we go. So this is a In-N-Out contracting procedure. We don't control these dates, but this is a rough estimate. We hope that the construction will be complete in May, next May.
I have a question with regard to the, if you could go back to the curb that shows, or the slide that shows the additional curb turning radius. What all will have to be relocated then for the new curb radius?
Oops, excuse me. The signal arm will have to be replaced, be a longer arm, have to be
Okay.
set back. The ADA ramp will have to be constructed in this area as well.
Where is that just freestanding vent pipe? Isn't there a vent pipe right around there, or is that somewhere else?
I think it's an old signpost.
Okay, and that needs to come.
That'll be removed.
Does any of their landscaping have to be redone?
No.
Palm tree that comes out also.
An older, and not part of their new
It's
landscape?
an old one that was
Okay.
left over from the last project.
That's right.
A telephone pole?
Telephone pole will have to be redone?
That's what Mr. Thomas is saying.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
I have a question. How much disruption, if any, will be done for the traffic? Are we anticipating it will be, how much disruption for the other?
Disruption in traffic?
Mhm.
There will likely be some detours for right turn traffic, I would think, yes. Typically, they try to keep it open during peak hours, and they would try to close it during other hours. It's, they've already gotten a Caltrans encroachment permit. I would have to go back and look at that. I'm sure it specifies the traffic control in that.
Okay. Your question, John, that's a good question.
Is the-
Last slide. What is the, construction begins after long lead items received, is that the light, we're still waiting months to get light posts in?
Yes.
No, Caltrans only contracts with one company.
Okay, but we had a report, I'm sorry, we had a report from Caltrans that that was gonna be solved. Are we still with that one company in Nebraska is the only company in the whole country that can deliver standard, light post standards that meet Caltrans regulations?
Due to the welding, I believe that's the reason, the welding certification. If there's more companies, I'm not sure.
Sounds like EW needs to
Yeah.
start thinking about doing that.
Well, you know, we're short of industry here in Imperial County. Why can't we get some entrepreneurs in here to go and figure out how to do this? I cannot believe that this one company in Nebraska is the only company in the history of this country that can meet Caltrans requirements for a light post. What was this 4 years
I
ago?
would say that we would have discussion with a company like EW that does that kind of welding. It's like, there's an opportunity here.
Absolutely.
So they have to go to Nebraska for.
Just the fact that they might
Maybe
save
Marcellus
4 or
would bring that
5
to their
months of
attention.
ordering time would be a benefit.
I'm sure there's a
Marcellus.
process
Can-
where they x-ray the welds as well.
I'm sorry.
But I think it's one where it's really having a discussion, particularly with the company, to see if they're some interest in
So
Mr.
even if
Hurd-
we let Caltrans know now, it's still going to be April till we get the,
I'm not sure how quickly In and Out will go ahead and proceed with this. They've got the design done, they've got the encroachment permit, they may order it earlier. This is our estimated
okay,
schedule. It may be sooner.
okay.
Can you go back to that slide where you have the trucks making the turn? And you're showing the new entrance to In and Out. You had just mentioned that there's going to be road closures off of Wake here a little bit. I mean, while
During
you're doing
construction, there may
doing
be temporary road right turn restrictions.
Yeah. So when are we going to open up the, when are they going to open up the driveway so that you can go in off of Fourth?
Once the raised median is constructed, Caltrans will allow the K-rail to be removed.
Okay. But will it go in before we actually start doing the work right on the corner there? Or will it be after?
That would certainly help.
Yes, I know. But is that our decision?
We'll point that out to them.
Okay. Okay.
There's no other access, right? I mean,
Yes.
otherwise you have to go all the way back down to 8th and come over, right? I mean, can you go through
I would think
the-
there would be flagmen here where they would allow traffic to swing further here. And so there may be some flagmen, I would think, that would control traffic on Wake when there's being right turns being performed.
What would the construction timeline be, do you think, Mr. Hagan? Any idea how long traffic would be disrupted, I guess?
Probably, you've got the removal, the demolition here of this curb in this area here. They would likely replace that with some temporary asphalt, some barricades, and then go ahead and do the forms for the concrete. I think it can be done minimally, minimal interruption in right turn traffic.
We have one, is that all the questions from the council? Right now, we're going to open it up to the public. And we have one slip.
You opening the public hearing?
We're opening up the public hearing. We have one slip from Bill Thomas.
Hi, I'm Bill Thomas. Mr. Mayor, City Councilman, thank you for letting me talk. Mr. Hagan's exactly right in everything he said. I know that in the past, when they've done work on the corner, what they'll do is, because there's 2 lanes on the other side, they'll put cones, and they'll put it down 1 lane this way, 1 lane that way, which helps mitigate the traffic congestion there. So I just had a fast comment. I received this a couple days ago, and I was reading it, and it said the cost of it will be, half of it will be In and Out. I don't think there's anybody here from In and Out. And the other half is all the properties on the east side of the street, which would be me. It's one property. So I suddenly realized that's this directly impacts all my property. And the only problem I have, I would like the city council to slow this down to your next meeting or something and give me a chance to talk to your staff and figure out what exactly you guys are doing. I don't understand it. This doesn't, it doesn't tell the terms of the reimbursement. It doesn't say exactly what I do to trigger my payment. A building permit, well, it could be a lot of things. You know that I'm planning on doing a lot more construction off Wake Avenue, some new buildings early next year, and trying to market this property, which is going to make it more difficult. But I don't know any of the terms of anything on this, and there's a lot of things that are vague, ambiguous on this, and somebody at the city, I think, owes it to me, since I'm paying for it, to let me know.
Did you not receive a copy of the agreement for reimbursement?
No.
The agreement is
No, I didn't.
attached, and it does
No.
spell out all of the terms.
All I got was this, I'm sorry.
I think that everything that you're asking for is certainly reasonable and is contained on pages 2 and 3 of the handout that we have. Would you be agreeable to us trailing this item for a little bit tonight? We have a couple of other items on the agenda.
Sure, why not?
Rather than having to come back in December?
Okay.
Is council agreeable to
It's
that?
okay, as long as.
I don't want to be unreasonable, I think I should know.
Okay. Why don't I give you my copy of the agreement, and we'll come back to this at a later time? Is that
Sounds
okay?
great.
Thank you.
Is that all right, Mr. Hernandez?
It won't take long to read it.
Your prerogative.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask Mr. Hagan a couple questions?
Sure.
I guess my
Hagan.
first question is, the proposed median was deemed necessary by whom?
Caltrans.
Okay. And it's to the benefit of, okay, I guess I'm trying to get a picture of why the property to the east is responsible for, I assume that was part of the negotiations moving forward with the construction of the In-N-Out. It certainly was not, in fact, I don't think Mr. Thomas owned the property there, but when that building was constructed originally, it certainly wasn't part of the agreement that they made when they constructed the current building on the east side, right?
Correct. The language in the agreement is if any building permit for future development comes in during the next 10-year period, they would be responsible to pay half the cost, which is estimated to be $57,500. Now,
I've read the backup
Okay.
material. Mr. Hagan, I'm asking, when the building on the east, the auto dealership or whatever it's being used for now, still an auto dealership, Mr. Thomas?
Today it is, yes.
Okay, whatever it is. When that building was built, we didn't require him to put in a median.
Correct. Caltrans did not require that.
Okay, so now we have a property on the west side, which is In-N-Out. In order for them to get their permit and to move forward, Caltrans required a median. So is it fair for us to go back to the property on the east and now say, because this, you have to share this cost?
When this property develops, they would have the same requirement. It's an improvement for the entire length here between Wake and I-8. So any new development over here would have triggered the raised median. Basically Caltrans is saying that it's a hazard to make left turns in this area across a 4-lane highway.
Show me again.
Pardon?
Caltrans is showing a left turn from Wake onto 4?
No, we're eliminating any left turns on this stretch of Highway 86 between Wake and 86. Let me go back down. This is the median here. So between the freeway here and Wake, we're eliminating people traveling south and making left turns into the auto dealership, and people traveling north and making left turns either into IHOP or In-N-Out.
Okay.
It's a safety issue. And any development that would occur on the east side would have to put that raised median in.
If that was not Highway 86, and it's 4th Street as we know it, would we, the city, have that requirement to put a median in there?
I would have to go back and look at the accident record, and very likely we would. We probably would.
Okay. And then my last question is, since we knew there was only one property owner to the east, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one parcel, right?
I believe it is.
Yes.
Okay. Would it have behooved our staff to have contacted that property owner to the east and advised him of the details of this in advance? Since I think with this has been, how long has it now been open? 2 years? Year and a half? No, 2 years,
Year and a half, I
right?
guess.
So have anybody from the staff had any discussion with the property owner to the east that this was going to come forward?
I don't recall, were you aware of this at all? No. Okay, but I know it was noticed.
Thank you.
Mrs. Sanders?
No questions, Mr. Mayor.
Mrs. Walker?
Okay, I think we'll just wait to see what comes back in a couple minutes.
Okay, so we're going to leave item 8. Move on to item 9, public hearing to consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission on a general plan amendment number 0802, change of zone, number 0802, mitigated negative declaration, number 08-04. The project proposes a general plan amendment for RR, rural residential to general commercial, and seek subsequent changes of zone from RR, rural resident, to CN, neighborhood commercial, for property located at 3103 South 4th Street, Highway 86. Staff report.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and members of the council, the project before you is a general plan amendment and a change of zone for property located at 3103 South 4th Street. What we're here before you tonight is, first of all, to request adoption of the mitigated negative declaration, and at the same time also request approval for the general plan amendment and the change of zone for this property. The property is located at 3103 South 4th, and it's approximately 4.15 acres. This is Dannenberg, and this is 4th, Highway 86. These are just a few pictures of the existing site. It's a vacant property. The surrounding land uses are basically, again, to the north is the CN, neighborhood commercial, and then everything to the east and the west is our rural residential. The description of the project is basically the general plan amendment will redesignate the site from RR to general commercial, and the change of zone will redesignate the zoning from RR to neighborhood commercial. At this time, there is not a proposed project for this site. A mitigated negative declaration was prepared, and the items that were analyzed were potential impacts associated with air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, traffic, and noise. The findings of the mitigated negative declaration studies indicated that all the measures could be mitigated to a level less than significant. As for air quality, basically, whenever a future project comes before on this site, the project will be required to abide by the Imperial County Air Pollution Control District, Rule 310. Biology, the project before construction would be required to provide a study for the burying owl. And if evidence occurs that there are owls in the site, then the mitigation measures will be procured. There were no cultural impacts on the site, so no mitigation is required. And in regards to noise, basically, the noise levels would be less than significant, so therefore no mitigation measure would be required. And again, depending on the type of project, whenever we receive a project, we'll review that project, and there might be a need for a future analysis on noise. And traffic, at this time, I would like to turn it over to our traffic consultant, Prasad, from LLG, who will go over the traffic.
Hello, I'm Narasimha Prasad. I'm with LLG Engineers, the traffic consultant for this project. Since there is no known project for this site, we assumed the highest intensity land use that would be allowed with the new, I think with the general plan amendment. So for that we assumed general commercial, which would generate about 5,000 daily trips, and the 119 inbound trips and 80 outbound trips during the AM peak hour, and 249 inbound and outbound trips in the PM peak hour. So based on this, using this analysis, we determined that there were no direct impacts to street segments. There were some cumulative impacts on SR 86 between I-8 and McCabe. And there were some direct impacts to intersections. So they are at SR 86 and Horn, and also SR 86 and McCabe. No cumulative impacts to intersections were determined. We did determine significant operational impacts at the project site access. So we recommended some mitigation for all the impacted intersections and segments. At 86 and Horn, I think the city and the Caltrans has a memorandum of understanding once the site plan is submitted. So whatever is required by that MOU will be provided for that intersection. At 86 and McCabe, we are recommending a fair share contribution because there are other projects in the area that will also be impacting that intersection and would be required to mitigate that. For street segments, we are recommending a fair share since the project is going to have cumulative impacts on the street segments. We are recommending fair share contribution for SR 86 between I-8 and Dannenberg for providing a southbound left turn lane at the 86 Wake Avenue, a second left turn lane at 86 Wake Avenue intersection. And between 86 and Dannenberg, we are recommending a fair share contribution towards widening that section of roadway to 4 lanes.
You mean from I-8 to Dannenberg?
No, from Dannenberg to McCabe.
Okay.
No, from I-8 to Dannenberg, we have that first.
Is the 6%.
Yes.
And then SR 86 from Dannenberg to
Dannenberg to McCabe, I
to
think.
McCabe. Okay, we just.
McCabe over there.
Okay.
McCabe is missing.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay.
So that takes care of the whole.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess that's one. I think that should know.
In summary, we're requesting that the mitigated negative declaration be adopted and the GPA and the change of zone be approved. At the same time, we have the project applicant in the audience in case council has any questions regarding future projects.
Ms. Villacana, could you go back to the bigger map of the area and refresh my memory with regard to Horn Road? Weren't we having some discussion about a right turn in or right turn out only off of Horn Road based on construction that was being planned?
Yes, that was with the Willow Bend project.
Right.
When the Willow Bend project came in, the first request was to put a signal light, but Caltrans did not authorize that. So Mr. Hagan and our traffic consultant came up with a, remember, Terry?
I thought it was a right out
Yeah, it was
only.
right turn only. But then at the same time, there was a different configuration along 86 where it would allow, there would be a median that would allow for the left-hand turn.
Okay, So
South
my question is, the traffic consultant was fully aware of those mitigation measures that were proposed for that, and that was factored into your traffic study?
That is correct.
Well, both those projects get off the ground, that's gonna be pretty congested right there.
It's good. So I was thinking it's,
Guess I'd like to hear from the proponent if there's any current plans, or just, this is just a preview of coming attractions that haven't been defined yet?
Hi, my name is Yuan Chen. Represent the application, the property owner. Right now, we don't have any specific project going on, but we would like to change the commercial zoning because the east side is already commercial, so we want to change that first. After that, we will see if any investment comes in, so we can do as we set up a neighborhood commercial project.
Very good, thank you.
I close the public hearing. Bring it back to the city council.
I had one other comment, Ms. Viacania, if you could share with Recon that did the mitigated negative deck. I thought they did an outstanding job. I thought the quality of the report was very, very good. And I know that this is one of our newer
Yes, one of our
consultants.
consultants.
And if
I'll
you
make
could just
sure
pass
to
on
relay.
that, I was very pleased with the clarity of the report. Thought it was very well done.
Oh, good. I'll pass it on.
Any other statements from Mr. Edney?
What is the general policy? This is interesting because of the economic situation and the slowdown in development. In looking at the report, you have a significant number of projects that are listed here for cumulative traffic impacts and whatnot. And I certainly, because we've gone through this long enough to know that they had to be listed because of the thing, but do any of these projects ever get taken off the list in the fact that they're no longer moving forward? Or once a project's proposed, it stays on for 150 years? Or is there a time limit?
No, some of the projects have been taken off. Those projects are the ones that we know for sure are not going to happen, like Desert Lakes, Palmilla. Those projects have been taken
What
off.
is the criteria you use? The applicant?
The applicant.
Pulls the application?
Yes.
withdraws it.
Or it expires,
Or their map
permit-
expires.
Map expires?
Their tentative map expires.
Okay. I'm prepared to make a motion if you are, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Approval of resolution number 09-127, resolution of the Council of the City of El Centro adopting mitigated negative deck number 0804, SCH number 2009-051110 with mitigation monitoring and reporting program for general plan amendment number 08-02 and change of zone number 08-02.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Edney, a second by Mrs. Walker. Please vote.
Yeah, go ahead, continue.
Motion carries 4-0.
Approval of resolution number 0928, resolution of the City Council, City of El Centro approving general plan amendment number 08-02 to the change the land use designation from rural residential to general commercial uses for 4.15 acres of vacant land located at 3103 South 4th Street and declaring same to be the fourth general plan amendment for calendar year 2009.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Edney, a second by Mrs. Walker. Please vote.
Motion carries 4-0.
Approval of ordinance number 0911, an ordinance of the City Council, City of El Centro, amending the zoning map of the City of El Centro pertaining to approved zone change of zone number 0802 to waive reading and pass as a first reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Edney, second by Mrs. Walker. Please vote.
Okay.
We also have a public hearing to consider the recommendation of the Planning Commission on General Plan Amendment number 09-01, change of zone number 09-1, and the negative declaration number 09-02AB. The project proposes a general plan amendment from CD, downtown commercial, to PU, public community facility use, and subsequent change of zones from CG, general commercial, to LN, limited use, for a 1.07 acre property located at 385 West Main Street. The general plan amendment and change of zone will allow for the construction of a 10,646 square foot outpatient medical clinic. Staff report.
Thank you. As previously mentioned, this is a general plan amendment application, which the applicant, which is the hospital, is requesting that the amendment be from downtown commercial to public community facilities, and subsequent a change of zone from CG to LU, limited use. The property is located at 385 West Main, and it's approximately 1.07 acres. This is a location map. As you know, this is the parcel that's being purchased. However, there are two parcels. Only the northern parcel is the one that will be going through the general plan amendment and the change of zone. These are the proposed, the current land use designations. As you can see, it's basically surrounded by the downtown area, downtown commercial, and a little bit of general commercial. And this is a zoning map. Again, the proposed use would be LU, limited use. Across the street, we have CG, general commercial. To the west, downtown commercial. And then to the east, we have the limited use, which is the railroad. This is the project site. And these are just pictures of the site. At this time, we are recommending that, before I move forward, a negative declaration was prepared for the project. However, we did conduct a traffic analysis to ensure that some of the issues related to SR 86 and access to the site will be identified. And again, we have the traffic consultant here to respond to any questions regarding the traffic analysis. So at this time, we are recommending that the general plan amendment and the change of zone be approved.
Were any comments from the council, Mr. Edney?
No, I think this council's obviously shown that its desire to move forward with this project. I think just from a rhetorical standpoint, I would say, to me, this goes to show the difficulty in the way we've set up our state government and the requirements we're supposed to follow. This is a proposal to build a health clinic that benefits this community by an agency that is owned by this city. And we still have to go through all this extra paperwork and extra nonsense because of state law. So it would be really nice if they came down and paid for all the work that they're required to do to help our community.
Well, it gets
But
better than that.
one last question. Without naming names, but because you're the director of planning, I'm really interested in something. One of the planning commissioners voted no on this project. Would you be able to suggest to me on the negative deck what the issue may have been raised?
The issue was not necessarily on the negative deck. The issue was on the overhead utility poles. A commissioner had requested that the project, those utility poles be undergrounded. And that's not a condition, that's not a proposed condition of the project. However, if the council wishes to do that, that would be. The idea was that the project design was designed to around those poles, and I think they did a good job in providing for those poles. And the cost of undergrounding those utility poles would have been close to 300. That's just a rough figure we received from the IID.
Yeah, I would significantly not be in favor of adding additional cost to something that this community needs desperately. And we've all seen the video or the pictures that were put up of our existing clinics and people waiting outside and sitting on floors. And this is a very high priority. I'm very glad to see us moving in the direction. Do we have an update, since you're standing there, in regard to the land situation and the deal, timeline on that?
Regarding the site plan or the
Yeah.
purchase?
No, the purchase of the land, the completion of
Maybe I
that?
would refer to Ms. Bieda.
And then, following that, if we could also get a brief overview of the traffic study and the Caltrans issues and the timing on those issues. Because, John, if you thought you had heartburn about what we're going through here, just wait till we have to deal with Caltrans, who's had over a year to understand what we're trying to do there.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. As a matter of fact, today we were given the approval to extend the closing of escrow to January the 29th. This is specifically related, as you may recall, part of the purchase is that the site be cleaned of any hazardous material. The property owners have done that, and at this time they're expecting to remove the dirt that you see out there at the site, and then they're going to come back and fill the hole that's there. And so they anticipate that they need an additional 30 days to complete this work. But from the redevelopment agency standpoint, we need to do our due diligence to ensure that the site is clean. Therefore, we have allowed for the extension of an additional 30 days, which brings us to January 29th.
Has the phase 2 been completed now?
The phase 2 has been completed, and we just received it on Monday from the property owners, so we can initiate our peer review.
But
it was a
we're
verbal.
understanding that you have to do your peer review, but
Yes.
based on the recommendations in the phase 2, it is clear?
Yes, the soil testing that has been done demonstrates that there's no concern as far as hazardous materials.
Answering Mrs. Walker's question, who's able to discuss the issue with Caltrans?
Ms. Villacaña, I believe, is going to address those issues.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett.
But with regard to the soil, what was shared with us is that it has to be hauled away, new soil brought in, and then our testing, the city's testing, will commence on the site.
And recompacted, obviously.
Right.
Okay. Wow, we're a lot farther away, along than we were.
So what we did is several members of staff, as well as the hospital and the whole group, were in attendance with Caltrans. And what we did is we went over all the bullet points in this letter. And at the end of the meeting, basically what occurred was that all the bullets were addressed except the last one, the dedicated right turn lane. So what has happened, if I may, and maybe I'll pass it on to our traffic consultant so he could just go over each item. But on the last item, what Caltrans is recommending is they're recommending to consider providing additional right-of-way for a dedicated right lane. Doing that would be quite costly because, as our traffic consultant will explain, there will be a need for more right-of-way to the south of State Street for the acceleration lane. And also, it would move the project to the east an additional 15 feet, plus the 15 feet that's already being moved for the radius, the 50-foot radius. So it's going to create some problems. We're exploring the possibilities. In fact, tomorrow morning, we're meeting city manager and staff to go over what action or what direction we should take in regards to the last bullet.
Ms. Villacaña, can you please explain one thing I'm having difficulty with? The letter is dated August 17, 2009. There's a notation, a handwritten notation in the top right that it was received by email November 2nd of 2009. Okay, so where was the letter during that 2.5-month period?
Actually, we have not figured that out. We did not receive the letter. The letter was brought up to our attention by Lindsay from the Holt Group. She took the initiative of just while doing her due diligence, she called Caltrans to see if they had any comments, and that's when it was brought up that a letter had been sent to the city.
Why don't you come on up? Please state your name, address, and everything.
Lindsay Holt, the Holt Group, 1601 North Imperial Avenue here in El Centro. When I spoke with Jacob Armstrong, the Holt Group was hired by the architects for this project to complete the engineering design only 3 weeks ago. At that point in time, we contacted, although we had been working on the site plan previously, we were only hired 3 weeks ago to initiate the final design plans for the project. And at that time, we thought it odd that we hadn't received any comments from Caltrans, given that this project is within their right-of-way. So we contacted Caltrans, Jacob Armstrong, with the Development Review Department at Caltrans in San Diego, and he sent to us the letter that you received this evening, and that's when we initiated a meeting with Caltrans and the city to discuss these items on the list, because they do impact, of course, the site plan. And according to Jacob, he had received back in May, the city had sent out the environmental document, but he thought that that document was only the initial study and not the entire environmental document. He thought he would be receiving at a later date the negative declaration for the project. He didn't understand that he was receiving that neg deck in May. So he decided not to comment on the site plan and the environmental back in May. He did.
Excuse
go
me,
ahead.
so he is the, excuse me, if I read this correctly, he is the branch chief of Development Review Branch?
Right.
Yes.
And he couldn't tell what the document was he was receiving, or he likely didn't even pay attention?
I don't know. All I can tell you is what he's told me. And then back in June, or in July, I believe, the traffic study was received, and the traffic study was forwarded to Caltrans. And the review comments that you have in front of you are Caltrans' response to the traffic study, not to the site plan, not to the environmental document, because Caltrans never responded to that. This is to the traffic study.
Do they intend to respond to anything else, or this is all we're getting from Caltrans?
I believe that's all we're going to receive. They consider our ongoing coordination with them their response to the site plan.
Okay.
Ms.
Then-
Villacana, if I'm correct, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first 5 bullets you think you've addressed?
Yes, we have.
Okay, but if I don't know, maybe I don't know how to read, but it says, please consider providing. The answer is no.
And basically,
That's not a demand. It says, please consider
When we-
providing additional right-of-way.
when we met with Caltrans, basically that's what it was, inferred with them, that what we're going to do, we're going to go back, and now, once we decide on the last bullet, we're going to submit something in writing to Caltrans addressing all the points that they brought up. The only thing we're waiting for is the last comment.
Well, I think I share Ms. Walker's concerns. I mean, this has gone on typical. We faced this in the past with issues, and we may not always like what Caltrans has to say, and they have a job to do too. I think the biggest concern is the continual delay in even getting information. I thought we sent that out. We didn't know that was the complete. It's not appropriate. Not only on a project like this, it's not appropriate on the 50 projects that we've had issues in the past on with this, but I think it'll be very imperative that when we respond, that we have direct follow-up. We know that just last week, Caltrans announced the hiring of the new District 11 director. And I think if you would be so kind on this particular interest to keep the mayor updated, and certainly the council is needed, because I think it may be important for us to, as we did a few times in the past, I could think significantly back to when the mall was having issues. It may be an opportunity for us to have a elected official staff meeting requested between the new District 11 director and go over these types of things that continuously be a problem. I think we did play a little bit of a beneficial role in getting some of those items moving in the past.
Remember all the back and forth that we've had to put up with before with Caltrans? It's like they change their mind so frequently. Are we anticipating that same scenario here?
And that is a concern for the last comment, even though they're saying consider, we are concerned that at the last minute, they're gonna hold up the encroachment permits based on this comment, so.
When are we anticipating sending the city's response to Caltrans? What's a drop dead date here? When will that go
Once
out?
we get direction on the last comment, whether we're gonna pursue it or not, by early next week, we can submit the comments.
Okay. Could we have the traffic engineer speak to the issues of the...
Can I just add 2 more comments? Just for the record, we did meet with, Caltrans was involved with our meetings beginning last September for the project. Sean Rizzuto was in attendance at 2 of those meetings. So the city and the Holt Group did make an effort to include Caltrans from the very beginning of this project. And from our understanding, we not only need to have Sean Rizzuto at those meetings from now on, but we also need to have Jacob. And however, like Ms. Villacana just mentioned, we haven't even gotten to the encroachment permit process yet. So there are going to be other people besides Jacob reviewing the encroachment permit process who may come back, you know, a couple months down the road requesting additional mitigation. So that's something we're trying to take care of at this point in time, so there aren't going to be any additional problems with that encroachment permit down the road, like you probably saw with the In-N-Out Burger problem. So we are trying to be proactive. And
If I may, yes, I know Mrs. Walker wanted to hear from the traffic tech, but I have a particular question, would you yield? If the young man, what's his name, said Mr. Armstrong failed to read the particular document that was the negative deck, the EIR, right? He failed to read that and noticed that and made no comments.
Usually excuse me, if I may, what happens is, by law, they have a certain amount of period to respond to any comments. On a negative declaration, it's 20 days. However, we usually take their comments even if they're 30 days.
So, but you've received nothing?
We received nothing.
And, okay. And that's, okay. We'll listen to, reserve my questions. Thank you so much.
Just to follow up to that, Ms. Holt, and Ms. Villacana, that's why I'm suggesting strongly that there may be an appropriate time to bring in a couple of elected officials for a sit-down meeting on this. I mean, Ms. Holt just explained to us that Caltrans has been aware of this project for what is now 14 months, if I can count correctly. Is that right? And we now know that not only were they aware and participated in meetings 14 months ago, beginning 14 months ago, they refused to provide by law the comments that they're required within the timeline. And now we have a project that is this long into the process, and they're going to come back and nick us for a bunch of things at the very end. So I think I would like, at some point, that you feel appropriate to have a couple of council members sit there and have Caltrans staff tell us, with all those excuses, why they're going to come in now and try to hold up this project.
And the first time they mention a state budget issue, I'm going to come unhinged.
No, now they'll say they lost their director.
No.
They did. I mean, those are facts.
No, you know what? Enough excuses. They've known about this a long time. We're talking about one turn.
Okay. I'm just going to address the Caltrans comments for now, because those seem to be the more important ones to talk about. The first pillar item is the northbound right turn lane. That's the one that we are going to talk about tomorrow. The same thing is repeated again in the last pillar item as well. The second one is the corner side distance. That is for vehicles on Main Street making a right turn. Vehicles on Main Street going westbound, making a right turn onto 86. So this, oh, that's right. Yeah, that's for vehicles waiting over there trying to make a right turn to go north. This building is built, the corner of this building is right here. So for a vehicle that's standing here waiting to make the right turn, they have to be able to see long enough to see if there is enough gap for them to make the right turn. So that was the comment that Caltrans made. They wanted to ensure that sufficient corner sight distance was available.
What is the line of sight requirement? Do you know offhand?
The distance, it's 300 feet.
Okay.
So that 300 feet comes up to here. What we have when you draw a line at this corner, we only have about 190 feet. So we are short by about 110 feet. And for that reason, the building needs to be moved further east, about 10 to 12 feet, I think, so that the necessary
Sir,
line
that,
of sight is.
an alternative could not be mitigated, that is a controlled intersection, could not be mitigated to say you can't turn right on a red light? Isn't that would be a much simpler alternative?
That would be, but the thing is, the building is not yet built, so it is possible to redesign the
So
site.
we're going to go back and have the engineer, or the architect redesign a whole building?
It's a design exception. I mean, it is, what you're saying is possible, but that's a design exception which Caltrans has to approve.
The problem with shifting the building, though, is that we lose the required number of parking spaces. So how are we going to address that? I mean, they're not leaving us a lot of alternatives here.
It forces us to do a lot more adjustment.
Okay.
Well, I might suggest that we since we're not near the finish, that at least be put on the table as an alternative to not having to move the building and lose parking. I mean, it's not uncommon in areas of high traffic.
But that's only one of the reasons they want us to move the building. The other has to do with the turn radius, right?
The other has to do with the turn radius, because
So we got
this
a double
this
whammy.
curb radius is only 11 feet, and the truck we had a truck turning template on this corner, and with that we determined that at least 50-foot radius is required.
50.
Otherwise, the trucks will, swing all the way and maybe hit the car in the left.
What are the trucks doing now? And what have the
They're
trucks been
running on
doing
the
for the
curb.
last 65 years over there?
Running up on the curb.
They could also be
Yes,
climbing
they
up
are.
the curb. I think
They're running up on the curb.
I was told by the city that city staff that there have been other locations where it has climbed the trucks climbed the curb, and I think there was even one accident. I think it's there. Somebody was killed or something. A pedestrian was killed.
That was 4th and Ross.
But they climb the curb.
So this 11 foot is a non-standard curb radius. Also, since this is on 86, whenever in general, whenever anything is built or built on Caltrans right of way, if it is not up to standard today, they want to get it up to standards.
But
When you're rebuilding something.
50 feet is what we're required, or don't we have a range somewhere between
Yeah, I
20
think
and 50?
city also, I think that was the city's.
City's recommendation is 50?
The city's recommendation is 50. At a minimum, I think it could work at 40, but the city staff is recommending 50.
And that's not what it is.
I'm sorry?
And that's our recommendation, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet, are we?
Well, we don't know that Caltrans would accept the 40, so you're saying, why don't we go with 50, because we know that that's what they're going to accept.
We're not there. We got a lot of work to do.
I think the problem with, as Mr. Prasad was speaking to, the problem with not meeting Caltrans requests is that we'll have a design exception to their rules, and we'll have to go through a process where we will need to obtain approval from their manager, and that process can take anywhere from 6 months to a year. And so, in order to get this project designed and constructed, we're kind of at a loss. We need to make sure that they're satisfied so they don't hold up the entire process. The other route would be to go with the design exception and have them do the review, which who knows how long that could take.
Maybe
So
they could have started that design review 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 months
that would
ago.
have been very
Number one. Number two, the problem, as we found significantly in dealing with Caltrans, is the fact that they never stick to what they say. I mean, how many times have we got something where, you can't do this, you can't do that, and then you can do that? Or, yeah, you can, and then you don't. So my question is, as you go through your discussions with him, how are you going to get Caltrans to actually put it in writing that they've allowed that exception or they have allowed that modification? Because as you just said, what happens is somebody tells you, at least our experience has been, somebody says, yeah, I think we can do that. That's workable. And then it goes up the chain of command. The guy says, we would never approve that. We have a little experience in dealing with this, and it's frustrating because we just want a straight answer.
Yeah, and that's what we would have to do, is we would have to submit our response next week, and then they would take the time to review it, because we're not giving them everything that they're asking for. They wanted additional right-of-way for the widening of 4th Street, not just for the turn lane, for the widening as well. So they wanted a turn lane and additional right-of-way for widening, which obviously is impossible. So we're not giving them everything that they're asking for. So they're going to have to review our response, and hopefully, they said it would only take a couple of days when we were at the meeting,
Yes.
but again, who knows?
Provided we give them everything they want.
Okay, how do we move the building? You said we had a 10-foot issue on the traffic sight line, and now how far more do you have to move the building to get your 50-foot radius?
Between 10 and 15 feet to the east. and
Total
between-
or an addition?
Total.
Total.
If we added the turn lane, we'd have to move it an additional 10 to 15 feet.
Okay, we're not doing the turn lane.
Yeah.
So if you move it 15 feet, how many parking spaces do we lose?
You would lose a number of parking spaces, so what you would have to do is extend the southern boundary of the first parcel, the parcel in question, about 15 feet to the south to accommodate the parking.
Do we lose the entrance off of Main Street? Would that have to be reconfigured?
No.
Okay.
But we have a zoning requirement for a certain amount of parking spaces.
Correct.
But we also have an ability to do an administrative adjustment on those of 10%, right? So my question is, how many parking spaces are we losing by moving the building the 15 feet? There's 63, if I read this correct, 63 parking spaces total?
Correct, that's the minimum amount required is 63, and that's what we have.
Okay, but that doesn't include the 10% exception rule that we could in fact possibly use. So my question is, we move the building 10 feet, do we lose 6 spaces, do we lose 3, do we lose 14?
Yeah, how many is that? 1, 2, without my glasses, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many
About
is
a dozen.
it?
10.
Okay, what would take, how long would it
Oh, we
take
can
for
look
us
at that.
how long would it take for us to have 4th Street revert to the city of El Centro versus having it retained as under state jurisdiction?
I can provide some of that. Brawley started that process 2 years ago, and they're not complete. As part of the Brawley bypass deal. Am I correct on it, Terry?
Well, let me ask you this.
I want to be honest with you. Everybody talks about it, but we were watching what Brawley's going through, and they want it, and I think it's been 18 months maybe.
Okay,
But
so
they're not complete.
have we identified any downside to not moving forward with the request that we
Well, the
ownership?
downside is the cost that we ultimately take on for the road improvements from 86 throughout the whole city of El Centro, which would be Adams Avenue, right? from Imperial Avenue till it makes the curve all the way down to whatever extends, is it McKay? How far does it go down to the city? What's the
State route.
south boundary? McKay?
Okay.
So, I mean, and that's the biggest negative cost, and I know from a council standpoint, we've had these discussions.
That's true.
In light of it, but I agree with you, Ms. Walker. I think it is significantly time, whether it's directly related to this project or not, that we take on that. It will be a cost to the city, but I think the economic gain of us being able to take control of not only 4th Street, but of Adams. There are, as I've suggested in my background in real estate, you know, there are significant numbers of vacant property on Adams that cannot be developed because of the encroachment issues with Caltrans. And we certainly have the ability, once we take it back, to get trucks off of, we have the ability to pass ordinance to keep those trucks off 4th Street at Adams.
If we initiate the process, we do not get a check written by Caltrans to bring up the highway to standards. If they initiate the process, we're liable to get $4 million, $4 million.
Well,
Yeah,
if
but we
they,
could wait 50 years before Caltrans could ever think of doing this. I mean,
But
we've been talking about this for 6 years.
How much of a change, based upon what was stated earlier, we are asking for a 40-foot radius. How much difference of what we're asking and what Caltrans is proposing, where there would be a great deal of benefit, at least at that intersection?
We would still need to move the building.
Yeah,
even to
okay.
provide the 40.
Okay, so from that particular vantage point or disadvantage point, we're in agreement that there needs to be some adjustments. There needs to be an adjustments, whether we are going to be doing the adjustments if we were in control of that section or if Caltrans is control. So for this discussion, where do we go from here? We want to specifically address bullet number 6 and see whether or not this notion of please consider providing is more firm than the idea of please. Please would give you the impression that it's, if you don't consider it, no harm, no foul. If you do consider it, okay. We're not sure what that means exactly. So we're going to be having some further discussions to make that determination. Mr. Edney and Mrs. Walker have certainly, I think, hit upon something very significant, and that is whether we want to engage an elected official, but maybe that elected official need not be local. Maybe the elected official we wish to engage is state. See if they could assist us in getting Caltrans to look at this from a more, I want to say, pragmatic, and actually address the concern that Mr. Edney brought forward was, this is a vitally important building that's going up that would be a great benefit to the entire region. So if we're here, bullets 1 through 5, we're okay. We believe we can address them. Bullet 6 is the sticking point. Whether we're in control or Caltrans is in control of that intersection, there's not going to be great deviation from what's going to be requested.
Wait.
Well, they're saying that they would still be asking for a setback of the building.
If we control 4th Street, we would not have to have those requirements. Do we want 18-wheel trucks going down in front of our clinic? Do we want it going down right next to our downtown? I mean, we certainly would have that discussion, and I'm not here to debate that tonight, but I think that's a discussion that we would have as a council if we take back 86, is what traffic we're going to allow. We have Imperial Avenue that we do not allow those trucks on right now because of safety and because of the ability of controlling noise and whatnot. I mean, 4th Street is a major business corridor thing. I don't know that we want that.
Okay, but here you are. Look at what you're suggesting. We have several major thoroughfares that runs north and south, east and west. If they're not on Imperial Avenue, they're not on 4th Street, which curves into Adams, where are they going? What are we going to do with the freight? Where will it actually be able to end? Interstate 8 is just a few blocks away. How are they going to come in? And on which route are they going to utilize? Le Brusserie, I agree with you, Mr. Edney, but Le Brusserie is a little bit further to our west.
Do we
But
not
it's not-
allow exceptions for deliveries on that street?
We do,
So if
but-
they have an impact that they need to deliver to the market or the dealership on that particular street, they have the right to go down there, right?
But
We're
I
not,
th-
we're in, what we're suggesting with that signage on Imperial Avenue is, if you got no business delivering on Imperial Avenue, don't bring your 18-wheel truck down Imperial Avenue.
And I concur with that. I concur with that. But I still think, as we are looking at solutions, let's not put ourselves in a box where we create a different set of problems. We have a major thoroughfare, which is Imperial, 4th Street, and then Dogwood. Those are the major thoroughfares running through our city. So we have a lot of freight. We have a lot of freight.
Yeah, I think, why don't we come back here?
But that's
and
a discussion for the
is for
traffic
another-
technician.
Another time, and I think Mr. Hagan's comment is well taken. If they want to give it to us, that's fine, but we need to kind of work on that. So what, the plan is for the city's response to go to Caltrans by next week. And we're going to propose a 50-foot turn radius.
That will satisfy most of the.
If we propose a 50-foot turn radius on that corner, what will that do to the line of sight?
That will work as well.
Okay, so that takes care of both issues.
Yes.
So we're done.
But when you suggest that there's a lot line adjustment to the south, whose property is that?
That's ours.
Oh, that's
It's
additional.
still part of ours.
It's all ours.
Basically,
okay.
what we do, Mr. Edney, is just move.
Okay,
and
well,
adjust.
my
We'll
concern
try to-
was, who are we taking property from? Okay,
No,
well.
so what happens is, we're gonna have to, whatever parking spaces we lose, we would then just have to reallocate on the south side of the property, right? But then we have some issues with the design of the building, design of the center, right?
If I
Mr.
may,
Rhodes?
what we could do is go back and see how many parking lots we would lose, and that may, be okay for an exemption, for a variance. It would be up to your discretion. And at the same time, we know that if we move the building, if we do the lot line adjustment, we're going to need, I think, 15 feet to the south.
Well, I
Okay,
think
well,
we-
I agree with you. Let's look at the options
Yeah.
and come back
Yeah.
on that particular issue of how many parking spaces we actually lose, assuming that you've provided, as you say, just about everything Caltrans has requested that we can reasonably do except the last bullet. And then we can certainly discuss as a council whether we want to do a lot line adjustment or offer a waiver if it fits within the standards of the city waiver policy in regard to parking.
And I
I-
think
I-
that's oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
I think there are some things that we can do. This, to me, is critical. This, setting up this health center there is critical, not only for the hospital, but it's critical for our downtown area that needs a shot in the arm, and I think that this will make that happen. So I would really like to see us just focus on perhaps, let's make this work, because time is of the essence, and we don't have a lot of time. And we can't do some of the things that we would like to do. So for this time being, the things that we can change and make right, then as a council, I'm sure that we will do that. The other things that are out of our control, we need to just be able to sit down and talk to them and see if something can happen along those lines. And I think that that's probably where we should be at right now. And let's just keep, moving ahead and let's just see if we can make this work.
If I may, once we submit our comments, our responses to Caltrans, and they did say they would turn around hopefully within a couple of weeks, I think we'll have a better idea whether they're going to push this or not.
Weeks? It's going to take them did you say couple?
Just to get back to us whether they're in agreement with our responses to their comment letter.
A couple of weeks.
That's what they told us, yeah.
Get it in blood.
We'll push them for a response in a couple of days.
Ms. Viacana, let me ask you this. Aside from the specific Caltrans issue, or maybe including the Caltrans issue, I guess you know how in favor of I am of this project, but I guess my question is, do you see a scenario where we're not going to be allowed to build a clinic on that site? Or do you see obstacles in which we will, because I would hate to go ahead and move forward with changing the zone on something which is a limited use, which very narrow use opportunity, if you're going to come back or you see issues that are potentially insurmountable. And I think what you're suggesting is there's nothing insurmountable. We may have to make some lot adjustments or whatnot. And I guess the only caveat to that is our good friends at Caltrans, which you would be slightly concerned with. But we'll use the power of Ms. Sanders and the mayor and Ms. Walker with our representatives at the state to make sure that if it gets to that point. Okay, thank you.
There's somebody that wanted to speak on this.
Oh, yes, we have a, we're now going to open up the public comments, and we have Mr. Sterling Mays.
Good evening to the new elected council person. And Mrs. Sanders, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Oh, for the,
Council persons.
yes,
I know.
council,
There we go.
okay.
Mr. Edney has concerns there quite a bit about Caltrans. I understand that. I'm looking forward to you building this clinic. But I'm a little bit concerned about what is, were those, the environmental study, did anybody do that across the street from this? I realize maybe the area that you're looking at has been cleared of all whatever it was underneath there in that big hole out there. But did any of it leach under Caltrans's area or across the street to the
Which,
west?
to the west.
Property there. There was I think there was a gas station there, or a gas tank that was under. And I'm wondering, you know, this is for the people of El Centro who come in and utilize. Plus, it's also impact the people across the street here from this project.
Please give us an example. In what way are they impacted?
Well, any of that, I don't know what was found on there originally to make the place, dig that hole in the property. What on the impact? I have no knowledge of it.
So when you say impact, you're suggesting that there may be a contamination impact question?
Contamination impact.
Well, I don't think that's ever an inappropriate, legitimate question to ask. But, you know, when they typically do phase 2 studies, they do a pretty significant boring samples around there. And I think if the issue was raised I mean, these are professional people doing this, that would concern themselves of potential leakage, I'm certainly that would be raised in the report.
The only reason I'm asking, I've never seen anybody drilling across the street on the west side of it.
Well, I don't know that they drilled across the street. I'm saying whatever they found there would certainly tell them whether there was a potential for leakage all the way across the street or 100 feet south or 500 feet to the north. And I'm sure the report would call that out. And we haven't seen a copy of the phase 2, but I'm sure the city staff has. Or I guess you just got it for review and you're sending it out for review
And if
by
I
the
may,
appropriate agency.
the state agency, the Department of Toxic Control has reviewed all that digging, and it's meeting their requirements. So the state agency responsible for those kind of things you're bringing up have been involved in this, and as part of the environmental assessment that they had to do, determine what that was, where it was, and was that satisfactory. So the state agency, this is one of the reasons why it seems to be taking a little longer, is they've had to be involved in the state agency for them to review and for them to respond back, and they've done so.
I didn't want Caltrans getting any more.
But I appreciate folks seeing what's going on and asking questions.
Yeah, so that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Are there any other public comments? If not, we're going to close the public comments, bring it back to the city council.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, have you prepared for a motion? I'm prepared to make one.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sanders.
Approval of Resolution 09129. Approval of Resolution 09129, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro adopting negative declaration number 09-02A without monitoring plan for general plan amendment number 09-01.
Second.
There's a second by Mr. Edney. Please vote.
Motion carries 4-0.
Approval of Resolution Number 09130, resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro approving General Plan Amendment Number 09-01 to change the land use designation from downtown commercial to public community facilities usage for 1.07 acres of vacant land located at 385 West Main Street and declaring same to be the fourth General Plan Amendment for calendar year 2009.
I have a motion by Mrs. Sanders, second by Mr. Edney. Please vote.
Mr. Mayor, before you vote, I just wanted to clarify that the resolution you're adopting is the one that was handed out and on your dais, and that provides language in the event that there needs to be a lot line adjustment. The land will also be included as part of the general plan amendment.
So is it, with that clarity, there's no need for an amendment, is there?
Correct, as long as we know that's
Okay.
the resolution you're adopting.
Thank you.
Please vote.
Motion carries 4-0.
And then Resolution 09131, a resolution of the City Council of the City of El Centro adopting negative declaration number 0902B without monitoring plan for change of zone number 0901.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sanders, a second by Mr. Edney. Please vote.
And the final one
Motion
is
carries.
item D, approval of ordinance number 09-12, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of El Centro amending the zoning map of the City of El Centro pertaining to approved zone change of zone number 09-01 to waive reading and pass as first reading.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Sanders, a second by Mr. Edney. Please vote.
Motion carries 4-0.
Okay, at this time, we're going to go back to item 8. If he's had a chance to review it. And why don't you come up, Mr. Thomas? And it's good to see somebody else limping a little bit too, you know.
I broke my knee, and I just got the cast off, so I'm a little sore. Thank you. This gentleman, Terry Hagan over, he just explained everything to me. I understand everything thoroughly, and I appreciate your help. I guess I have no problem with it.
Okay.
So
All right, then.
you go ahead and do what you have to do, and just want to, why don't you buy my property? I'll cut you a cheap deal, and you move this thing down and make it 5 times bigger.
I don't think you want to meet this price.
Anyway, good luck with Caltrans. I've dealt with them. There's something else. I was just telling you, I'll take 1 second. I was telling them when I built the dealership, they told me I couldn't put in 2 20-foot driveways. And we argued, and they came down from San Diego, the boss with all of his people, met him at 7 in the morning, and the boss said, you can't do it. I'm not going to let, this is the head guy. He said, you can't do it. And I'm there with my contractor, and he pulled out a permit from Sacramento and said, well, I went over your head. I've already got it approved. And they went ballistic because he's embarrassed in front of his people. And I thought real fast, and I said, wait a minute. Instead of putting in 2 20-foot driveways, I have to have a driveway. It's a dealership. I said, will you allow me 1 40-foot driveway? Yeah, I'll do that. He had to have the say-so, the final say-so. Remember that when you negotiate with him. There's something else. So thank you for your
Okay,
time.
well, thank you
I
for taking the
appreciate it.
time to sit here a little bit longer and read through that to make sure that it was
Yeah.
okay. We really do appreciate that,
Yeah,
sir.
congratulations on your new re-elections and her award she got.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sedalia's been here for 21 years I've been here, I think.
Yeah, she's only 37 too.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
right.
Okay.
Thanks, thank you.
We know each other for a long time.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to approve the resolution number, is it 132? Oh, we have to, I'm sorry.
Notice of public hearing.
That was the,
thank you.
We're gonna close
we're
it.
going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the city council.
Approval of resolution number 09132, resolution of the City Council, City of El Centro approving the agreement for reimbursement of raised median island and corner radius costs for the In-N-Out Burger development at 4th Street, SR 86 and Wake Avenue.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Edney, a second by Mrs. Sanders. Please vote.
Motion carries 4-0.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, one second. Mr. Hagan, I would just hope, and I don't in any way make my comments personal, but I would hope that in the future in a situation like this, we would make at least an attempt to reach out. This was not somebody we couldn't have gotten in touch with and made a phone call and said, hey, this is coming. Do you understand it? Just want to make you be aware.
I
It's
agree.
not like it was
I
75 property owners.
I thought staff had talked to him
Okay.
possibly, but I'm
Thank
sorry, we didn't.
We're now at item, final action, unfinished business, item 11.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we postpone this item for 9 more months.
Oh, for 9 more months? Oh, okay, so you've read the backup material.
I am not personally inclined to be looking at raising fees in this economic situation. And I also had a chance to look at the volume of permits that are coming through the city, which to date is, oh wow, 6,800, 2 projects.
You've read
The
the backup.
proposal is to February 2011, though,
Yes.
Mr. Edney, so that'd be...
February of what?
2011.
Oh.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Even longer.
All right,
I'll second.
all
I'll
right.
second it.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have a motion by Mr. Edney, a second by Mrs. Walker. Please vote.
The motion carries 4-0.
That's the way to
When you
go.
guys come up with a good idea, we're good to go. All right.
Can we have a small break for personal privileges?
Yes, let's take a small break for about maybe 5 minutes so we can hurry up and get out of here.
That'll give you a chance to get everything ready. That's cute.
By Finance Director Leticia Salcido.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and council members. Today, I will be presenting to you an overview and discussion of, it's a financial update, but basically we'll be reviewing a summary results for revenues, expenditures, fund balance for the year just ended June 30 of '09, sales tax results for the first and second quarter of 2009, current year revenues, including the triple flip, property taxes, and property taxes. Year-to-date, 9/30/09, revenues and expenditures, as well as a plan of action.
A plan of action, okay.
For fiscal year 2009, the year that just ended, we received total revenues in the amount of $24.1 million. $24.1 million. That was a $2.2 million decline from the previous fiscal year 2008. The major categories which experienced a decline were sales tax in the amount of $343,000 by 3.44%. The highest decline was in building-related fees, $801,000. Property taxes, TOT, and interest were the other categories that had a significant decline from the previous fiscal year. Total expenditures were $25.2 million. That was a decline of $663,000 from the previous fiscal year. Operating expenditures over revenue, however, were only $109,000. What happens here is that even though our revenues declined by $2.2 million, we were within budget expectations. As such, our operating expenditures were only $199,000, so we were able to balance the budget all but less than 1% for that fiscal year. We ended the year with a fund balance of $6.6 million, which is our beginning balance, fund balance for this year. Fund balance has been allocated, designated for various purposes. We have $450,000 of that for capital and one-time expenditures, $732,000 for GASB 45. Our 10% reserve is $2.4 million. $980,000 of that is accrued leave liability, $2 million is a vehicle and equipment replacement, and $21,000 of the $6 million is undesignated. As to sales tax, we received the reports from our consultant for the return sales tax for first and second quarter. And while the state is at 21% decline in sales tax, the city is at 14.5% decline down. And then for the first quarter, and then for the second quarter, taxable sales were down by 14.27%. Again, this has already been included in our budget. It's been taken into consideration for this year. Imperial County down by 18%. First quarter, second quarter 20%. The Southern California region is 16% decline first quarter, and then 19% second quarter.
And Ms. Salcido, just for my clarification, this is a decline from prior year first quarter?
Yes.
As opposed to fourth quarter of '08?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so from prior year.
From the prior year, same quarter.
Thank you.
The 14.27% decline in sales tax is approximately $300,000 per quarter.
Just a quick question, please, Ms. Salcido.
Yes.
The Southern California region, what does that include? San Diego, Los Angeles?
San Diego, Los Angeles, I believe Los Angeles and
okay.
Yes, south.
Los Angeles
South of Los
East.
Angeles.
Okay.
As of September 30th, 2009, we have received total revenues in the amount of $2.6 million, $2.7 million, which is 11% of the total revenues projected for this year. This number looks small, however, we do not normally receive our revenues in 12 equal installments.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to receive a lot of our revenues during the second half of the year. Last year, this same period, 9/30/08, we were at 11%, so the same percentage.
Okay.
For property taxes, which we have received 0% to date, those come in December and April. Motor vehicle and lieu tax at 2%. We normally receive that in January and April again. The TOT at 11% reflects only 2 months of revenues. The third month, September, is posted in October. Let me see. 3% here. Grants and other agencies. That includes the motor vehicle license fee, $3.9 million, which we receive in January and April. So even though this is low, the major reason is that we receive our revenues towards the second half of the year.
It's a timing issue.
Timing issue, yes. However, there's 3 revenue sources that have been affected and are showing a decline for this year. We received notice. Triple flip for this year will be $1.9 million. That is a decline from last year in the amount of $670,000, which is 25% of what we received last year. However, the decline is $300,000 of that decline is due to an adjustment for a prior period overpayment. So not all of it was a decline in sales. Half of it was an adjustment.
Overpayment.
Yes. Let me see. The budget, however, will the amount to be received this year is $575,000 lower than the budgeted amount. For property taxes, we received the property tax assessment notification, which indicates that we will be receiving $3.2 million in property taxes. That's $213,000 less than the amount budgeted for this year. And again, just as a recap, Prop 1A, state borrowing, the state will be borrowing from the city $775,000. However, the city, to maintain its level of reserves, is a participant in the securitization program, which will provide immediate cash relief to the city. As of today, the bonds have been issued, and the city will receive funds, half of it in December and half of it in April. As to expenditures, total expenditures are within budget. The overall is 24% right here. Most of the departments are within the 25% or less. The only department that is above average is the general governmental, which is at 33%. However, that reflects payments that are made at the beginning of the year. For example, for liability insurance, $755,000. The LAFCO payment at the beginning of the year, $93,000. And therefore the highest percentage of expenditures for this quarter, for that category.
Those are like prepaids that we pay
Prepaid,
early
yes,
on.
only
Okay.
once a year at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
Again, all the other departments within the 25%. This is our expected ending fund balance for the year. We start with $6.6 million. We have allocated in this budget $250,000 for capital expenditures, $200,000 for one-time expenditures, and $732,000 for our required GASB 45 annual required contribution. We'll be ending the year with $5.4 million, $5.5 million, of which the amounts are allocated for 10% economic unknowns reserve, a designation for accrued leave liability, $980,000, a designation for vehicle and major equipment replacement, $2 million, in the total amount of $5.4, and then with undesignated unreserved $21,848. However, our ending fund balance will depend on several things, and therefore the recommended plan of action. As I mentioned before, the city will be taking away, those were the three revenue sources that have either declined or are going to be borrowed by the state. For example, the $775,000 to be borrowed by the state, well, we're receiving those funds through the securitization program. The $213,000 and the $575,000 decline in property taxes and triple flip will be made up, all but $182,000, which is 3/4%, by salary savings, either by positions that have been vacated, and the funding has been frozen. Those positions, for example, are management positions. Some of them are management positions. We also have an average savings from just vacant positions, for example, police officers, that will be used to make up for the decline in these revenues. We also have additional revenues of a contract amendment, and then the other was additional revenues coming in through pass-throughs. We were able, through these savings, be able to make up for the decline in revenues. And like I said, only $182,000 is the remaining shortfall.
Ms.
Yes.
Lozito, can you go back to page 4? Because I just want, no, keep going. There. If I heard you correctly, on the triple flip, you had a decline from last year of 670, 300 plus thousand of that was an overpayment, so really the decline wasn't as significant. But if you've explained that correctly, the 575 in regard to the budget we approved is an increase of what you expected. So you have a $575 increase to the budget and a $213,000 decrease in the budget or maybe I'm not understanding? That's the way it shows.
The amount actually received for 2009 is $2,594,000. The amount that we budgeted is $2.5 million. That was $94,000 less than last year. However, we'll be receiving $1.9 million, according to the notification.
Okay, so the adjustment to the budget amount is $575,000 less.
575 less, yes.
Okay, but do you see what the difference? Under the property tax, you have put a adjustment to the budget amount, a negative 213, and under the adjusted amount, you didn't put a negative 575.
I see,
Okay,
yes.
that was my confusion.
No, this is negative, 575,806.
Okay, now you can go back, thank you.
No pluses. So both of those are declining. Property taxes, 213,000, and triple flip, negative 575,000.
Ms. Salcido, with regard to the vacant positions,
Yes.
your recommended plan of action, we do have, I believe, postings out for public safety.
Yes, our more general, our line positions, such as equipment operators, dispatchers, firefighters, we are not holding those up.
Okay.
So all of those direct contact positions are being filled. The only ones that we've held up on is, for example, HR director is not being filled, and we have some ones that we're not ready yet on. For example, we have a engineer position that's empty, but we're hiring the firefighters first, and the engineer positions will be available later this year as those first positions get filled, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But the line positions are being filled.
Okay, so with regard to the recommended plan of action, it would be accurate to say average savings, select vacant positions. It's not like we have a hiring freeze or anything like that. It's only, you see
No,
where I'm at? So
on an
it's-
average, yes.
It's
We
only
normally,
selected positions. And again, a timing issue with regard to
yes,
salary savings as we're moving through the process before they're hired.
yes.
We may have them budgeted for an entire year of salary and benefits, but if it takes us 6 months to find that candidate, there's additional salary savings.
Exactly.
Okay, good. So we are continuing to hire
Yes.
Yes.
selected positions. Okay, good.
Now, that's why I give you specifically, those line positions are the ones
Right.
that are moving forward.
Still looking at. Good,
Yes.
good, good. Okay.
I want to make a comment, Ms. Green.
Wow.
Go ahead,
No,
Ms.
no,
Green.
I'm good.
I just want to say, I mean, obviously, I don't think any of us here expected the news to be fantastic, but I think it does go to the conservative nature we do in putting together our budget, and that we don't inflate our prospects for revenue and deflate what we expect to expenditure. And so it goes to your staff and certainly the city staff as a whole, because when it comes to expenditures, it's good to see, but it's also, I think, what this council is expected to see is that when you come in with these mid-year budget reports, we expect to see the expenditures at budget. And I thank the city manager and all the city staff and certainly the directors who are responsible for that, because I don't think we should expect anything less. And I know that I deal with a number of colleagues who are always kind of shocked when they come in and find out their expenditures are much higher but obviously that's what we pay city staff to do, is make sure that they follow the budget. These are lean times. And I think it goes to the credibility of this city that for a number of years now, we have been very consistent in paying attention to not only what goes on here, but what goes on from a state level. And that's why we're not surprised or significantly surprised or shocked when revenues are down, because we plan on them and budget for them by the involvement that Ms. Sanders has and the rest of the council in lots of state agencies. I would suggest this. I heard some very disturbing news today that the latest information from the nonpartisan
CBO.
analysis suggests that by next year, the state's budget deficit could be as high as $21 billion again. So.
We heard that at the briefing, the online briefing from League of Cities.
So, you know, it's very important for us as a city and as a council to be ever cognizant of what's going on from that point, because we know that's going to have another significant impact on us going forward. And I hope that we're going to have constant updates on our budget and also on the issues that are affecting the state, because I said this at the SCAG meeting last month. If you think this year's city budgets were difficult, you haven't seen anything yet, because the property tax readjustment throughout the Southern California region, including our county, was not fully in effect for this fiscal year. We're just seeing it. The appeals are still coming in, as we know. The resale of homes, either through foreclosure or short sale, have not been posted. And in fact, as I know within clients, they're getting a tax bill, which is this tax time. They're getting a tax bill based on the previous assessed value. So even to this day, those adjustments, and we won't see those probably adjustments back until probably the spring, when the supplemental tax bills come out from the county. But there's going to be an interesting situation this year. It's likely that supplemental tax bills on property that's been conveyed in the last year are going to show a credit. Because as I said, when the property was sold, the escrow company is going based on the current tax roll, and that's at $220,000 or whatever it is. So the buyer is paying that tax bill. Now the county's then got to post it. They got to come out and reassess the value based on the new value the property selling. There, and typically and historically, we've seen a tax bill that comes back a supplemental, and you owe an additional $800 or $700. What you're likely to see is that there's a credit going to be given to that guy or that person that bought that house of $600 or $400, I think. So that's going to come back and bite us the next tax time we receive our tax payments. Quite honestly, almost every other city in Southern California has had to do.
Well, and that's the very reason why Mr. Silva's not here, is because of a board meeting at Imperial Valley College that demands his attention because of the budget issues they're ever having.
Yeah.
Speaking of online and your department, are we on track for the ACH payment of our utility bills?
We're, our schedule, we have a scheduled go-live date for our utility billing of, I believe it's March of next year.
Okay.
And for utility billing and for payroll, we have it as of April.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
And we are still maintaining our current level of service, right?
Current level of services, yes.
Yes, well, that is something to be commended for.
Yes.
That we're able to do that at a time when most cities are biting the bullets. We've still been able to provide that service.
Yes.
It's great. Good job.
Yes, thank you.
Good job, Mr. Durant.
If I can, just anecdotal, we had a discussion with a rating agency today, and they were going, we had already looking at bonds. And finally, the guy had to say, I don't get it. This is back east rating. Given all everything we read about California and El Centro, how come your numbers are so good? And we walked them through the things that, why that unemployment number is there. But we went back 6, 7, 8 years and said, look, this is where these things started. There was work done to put them all in. There was all these things. But as it came forward and finally the money started to flow, Council took a sturdy position of we need to put money away, because they saw the opening fund balance in '03 and they said, how did you get to this point? And it really was actually not in his questionnaire. He just says, you know, we're not seeing this in California, because they're looking at a lot of ratings. And it was pleasant to have that comment made, getting that recognition from a rating agency analyst that you've been doing the right thing for a lot of years. And once we started reaping the benefits of it, well, we were careful with it.
Mr. Durant, you had asked to follow Ms. Salcido. You had asked to follow Ms. Salcido with some comments that you wanted to make these.
Oh, just if you will, is that all the comments on the budget? This is an update, actually, in line with that, thank you. On the bonds, as you're aware, we're working on issuing the Measure D bonds, and part of that includes some collateral. Well, we're looking at the City Hall complex as being sufficient. It may not be because of values, and they're looking at the age of the buildings, and this is coming from the underwriters. So part of this process is we're going to look also possibly at the corporation yard, the public works yard. But beyond that, we would look only at idle properties, like we had the property over on between First and Second off of Ross, but not to look at any public safety buildings, not to look at any of our parks. We may come up less than the 15 million, which means we would issue associated with the valuation. And this has to do with a conservative bond market that wants a lot of assurances. What Ms. Salcido and I will be doing after Thanksgiving holidays is meeting with the LTA folks who are just starting to gear up for later on in the year to look at how they're going to issue bonds. And now we may be the only city that may want to do it, but they weren't ready to do anything. So we'll get going on this piece of the project. We're authorized up to 15 million. Whatever we get collateralized in this process, that's what we'll issue. And then we'll follow some other paths. But we will get to all of our projects. It's just I want to let you know that it may come in two pieces. And we're looking at the qualified bank loans, the BABs, and we still may look at something actually through the LTA as they gear up. But they're not ready yet. That's just an update.
Is there any comments from anyone? Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're going to adjourn as the city council.
Are you ready to adjourn? You want to recess and then come back and, because you're going to adjourn to December 1? You want to do that? Or?
Yes, let's adjourn to,
We're going to go into closed session. We're going to go into closed session, so you want to recess. And then when we come back, we'll adjourn to December.
okay, we're going to recess, go into closed session.
No, we're going to okay, are you going to do RDA? There's nothing?
There's nothing else left but our RDA. I thought we were going to do that first and then go into closed session.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to close
Recess.
as recess
Go to RDA.
and then have Marcelo come up
Yes.
with RDA.
Mr. Chairman of the RDA, if I could just make my report regarding the closed session.
Please.
The RDA did meet in closed session this afternoon with its negotiators regarding the acquisition of the property at 4th and Main Street. And during that meeting, Mr. Edney was absent, and of the 4 members present, there was a consensus to authorize staff to extend the escrow for that property to January 29th, 2010. And that's the only action to report on that.
Okay.
Although I believe Ms. Piedra indicated it earlier at the council meeting.
Actually, under your RDA agenda, the only item is an informational report, so if there's any questions that you may have regarding the report, I would be happy to answer those questions.
Do you have any questions?
Mrs. Walker?
Let me find it. The purchase agreement that's been outstanding for some period of time.
With Mr. Ibarra?
Yes, ma'am.
We have been in touch with him and trying to make contact, and we haven't been successful. What we are ready to do is give him a specific date. If there is no response, then we'll withdraw the agreement.
Thank you. For council, or RDA, that's on page 3. The purchase agreement's been outstanding since August.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. We're going to reconvene as the city council.
We need a motion to go into closed session?
Yes, we do.
A motion to go into closed session.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Edney, a second by Mrs. Sanders to go into closed session. Please
Okay,
vote.
don't forget, December 30, or December 1st, right?
Right.
December 31st.
December 1st.
All right.
We'll see you all.